Hey, welcome to another Backyard Professor Responds videos. Um, I'm in great sympathy with the gentleman that I'm about to show you now, and I'm not doing justice to his full video. I'm just as I'm studying and preparing for tonight's live broadcast, which is going to be a good one. We're going to deal with the new book by Matthew Harris, Second Class Saints, on the problem of the blacks in the priesthood through the history of Mormonism and the problems with it in the post-Revelation era, past 1978 to today. That's not the subject of this video. I am largely in empathy with this gentleman. I've been listening to his podcast. He goes by the name of the Rabyd Atheist, and he's not. I don't see him as he's critical. He's negative, yes, about a lot of stuff, but aren't we all? But let me play this clip and then I'll respond to this because the thought struck my head, oh, wait, you've got a problem here. And I thought that's worth making just, if nothing else, a short response video to. So here is this gentleman. I actually like this guy. He is, I will listen to many more of his videos because he is probing, he's investigating, he's trying to search. He hasn't come to any hard answers, even though he has come to some answers at this point in his life, and don't we all? So in the process of trying to just keep in mind all of the various views, the nuances, there's a lot to digest. Let's hear what he has to say.
Ed, the last one that I held to was called Dynamic, where I felt that the Bible was completely 100% human, but also 100% God, kind of like Jesus, the doctrine of the incarnation. And I realized I was kind of coming back full circle to kind of making the Bible into an idol again. And I had to discard that. I had to get rid of it because I couldn't improve the divine part of the Bible. That was the one thing through all these doctrines of inspiration that I dealt with. I couldn't prove the divine part. I couldn't prove the sacred part. Okay? And that became problematic for me. Okay? It became a real issue. And so, and then you start to analyze, okay, how accurately are these people portraying God, and in what way are they portraying God?
And it's that last comment that I want to focus on. I get how his struggle with the inspiration of the Bible, after a while, you just reach a dead end and you stop. Now, I did that at once, but I'm picking it back up. I'm in the process of trying to get through the Old Testament, reading it in the Hebrew. I'm never going to complete it this year. Hopefully, I'll get through the Torah. I don't know. I started way late, but next year I'll try to read it all the way through the Hebrew. And that really does change the approach to the scripture, reading it in the Hebrew. There's a lot more wordplay. For me, it's a lot. I don't know how to describe this. It's just more interesting. I'll put it that way. There is wordplay in the language of Hebrew that you just simply can't get into English, and that makes it more enjoyable and fun. The inspiration, you can't prove the inspiration, and so essentially, it appears to me this gentleman has given up, and I'm not going to encourage him to keep going or congratulate him for becoming enlightened. There's a process involved here, and I myself am going through this process. His idea of how accurate are they portraying the Bible is really remarkable, because how accurate has anyone described God? And is that even possible? So it appears to me, now I was going to grab some books and I didn't, sorry. I've read well, hold on, just bear with me on this. I'm going to do a Backyard Professor blooper here for you on purpose. Let's see if I can find this real quick. Yes, this one is one of them that I want. This one is another one I want. And this one is another one I want. So, okay, so to kind of give a comparison contrast, how accurate are they depicting God? And what is their depiction of God? Well, that's through the centuries, because the Bible isn't just one book, right? It has many, many, many different authors throughout different time periods. And there's nothing to say that the later periods, either politically or economically or philosophically, are going to be in connection and jiving with what was understood earlier. We know now even that the understanding of God from our human point changed, morphed. Some aspects disappeared, others came into play, and we can see this actually within the record itself of the Old Testament and, in fact, in the New Testament. So there is an evolution of God. And if you haven't read this, and it's been years since I've read this, Robert Wright, I remember reading it the first time. I could not put this book down. Fantastic book. So is there any depiction of God that's correct? Well, let's be real. We don't know. I made a suggestion in one of my recent videos, and my good friend Don Bradley called me on the telephone and he said, "Dude, I love your response." Oh, it was on my Heavenly Mother video. I think you people, I think more people ought to look at that. That's a good scriptural basis, I believe, and I'm going to expand on that. Maybe I have to get a series of them going before people will pay attention to the concept. It's a fascinating concept. When I said, well, you know, the Mormon church actually does not like the Heavenly Mother idea because there's not a lot revealed. Well, not to them. That's not a surprise. You know, they're after money. They're not into God. Male or female, doesn't matter. They don't read the Bible in Hebrew either. And so, of course, they can't find Heavenly Mother. They're reading English translations. Well, the idea I put forward was, well, you say don't talk about her, don't pray to her, don't mention her, just agree that she exists, and let's continue ignoring her because we don't know, and anything we say is going to be speculation. Well, I brought up the comment, well, isn't it speculation about God too, the Father? You know, all of this stuff in one or more ways is speculative. Now, these people in the ancient times, I'm just getting through the Abraham story in the Old Testament in the Hebrew. And they claim to be talking to God. And they describe God in various aspects as the Malak Yahweh, the angel of Yahweh, the great angel. Margaret Barker wrote a fantastic book on that, The Great Angel. And Geshen, I believe his name is Geshen, wrote a huge, magnificent scholarly study on Israel's great angel. Sometimes Yahweh was depicted as God, sometimes as an angel. Sometimes he appeared. And then you have Stavrakopoulos, her book on God, the new one just a couple of years ago, that's just taken the biblical world by storm, because there's no question about it that at least the ancient biblical writers understood God to have a body, and full body, all body parts, and he functions with that body, and he appears in that body. The famous story of Lot, I just read this yesterday. The famous story of Lot and the angels coming to visit Lot, and in human form, and he feeds him, and etc. And then the three men who visit Abraham, and one of them ends up being the Lord, etc. Christians would say that's the pre-incarnate Christ. Mormons wouldn't disagree with that. In later accounts, it calls him the great angel, etc. So does anyone really know unless you have a personal experience? And frankly, can you portray a personal experience out across the world to others? And would it be of the same significance? Would it be of the same magnitude? Would it be of the same understanding if they actually don't experience what they experience? I'm not so sure. You get into the semantics of Joseph Smith's first vision, his description of the pillar of light, and then beings come down in light. Sounds a lot like UFO visitations of accounts I'm beginning to read on UFO visitations. And I'm not equating the two. I'm just saying, when we get to the physical description of this, can we really bring the full understanding of what we experience into words? I have my doubts about that. So not only is the inspiration of the Bible difficult, I am in full sympathy and empathy with this man, but so is their depiction of God. But to ask, is their depiction of God accurate, is to assume that there is an accurate description with which all other experiences must conform to, or it's not of God. And yet we have so many from the eastern side of the world, from the south, from the north to the west. We have so many descriptions of God that people have experienced that really don't match. Some of them are just blatant contradictions, etc. And so, of course, the atheists will say, well, if it's all contradictory and God can't seem to get it right, then there must not be a God. But, is it a case of God getting it right? Or is it a case of us getting it right? Are we able to give the full? Can I give you the full information of my life and the impact of all the experiences that occurred to me and all of the thought processes I went through as I was having good experiences, bad experiences, sexual experiences, etc.? I can't, and I don't think any one person can. That's just impossible to do from our vantage point at this point. The other book I had is A.N. Wilson, God's Funeral. Very different from The Evolution of God. The other book I have is Hans Kuhn, Does God Exist? Yes, I was one of those nut jobs that actually literally read this book, and it's 835 pages. It is a gigantic tome, and it is philosophical to the core. It's a slog. It's not an easy read. I will probably end up looking into it, referencing something here or there. It's unlikely that I'll ever read it again, however. Well, he was a great Catholic theologian. His depiction of God here, his approach to the meaning of God in our lives, the meaning of God out in interstellar space, etc., is going to be different from the Catholic vantage point than any Jewish point, including the Kabbalah. And you take the Jewish Kabbalah, that's going to be completely different in so many respects from Mormonism. I know some Mormons, myself included, when I was a practicing Mormon and a believing Mormon, we like to find the parallels to the Kabbalah, because there is a God the Father, and there is a God the Mother, and there absolutely is a God the Son, and there absolutely is a God the Daughter. You can cherry pick it and find parallels to Mormonism and say, see, in this regard, the Kabbalah was accurate and true. In that regard, they're apostate because they don't match our doctrine. And I'm circling back to his comment here. How accurate do they depict God? Well, who gets to claim any of it's accurate? And yet that doesn't prove there's not a God. If none of the descriptions are accurate, that fully satisfy us who are on the finite plane. Unfortunately, weirdly enough, And I promise, if you look back through several of my videos, I have argued against this blind faith concept. I don't like it at all. Yet, there is a faith aspect to this. I didn't set it up this way, so I don't know how to navigate these waters. I get how religions say, "Oh yeah, we've told you, you gotta pray and you gotta listen to the Holy Ghost, etc." That really doesn't set apart anything that's final and firm, because every other religion also does that. I mean, the Muslims do that, and their version of God is absolutely correct because God told them so. Well, the Muslim God is not the Mormon God, is not the Christian God. I got bad news for you. The contradictions there are immense, and is not the philosopher's God, and is not Abraham's God. I mean, when he met Melchizedek, let's get realistic. I just read this a day or two ago, too. And I'm studying the Melchizedek Dead Sea Scroll, the 11Q 13. I'm going to do some videos on that. It's fantastic stuff. Their version of who Melchizedek was. Well, he was the priest of God Most High. Well, the Hebrew is El Elyon. Now, El in Hebrew means power. And Elyon, of course, is just absolute totality, magnificent power. And Abraham didn't even skip a beat, man. He immediately blessed after the exchange of gifts, after the exchange of the tithing. Abraham immediately connected Yahweh to El Elyon. And there's no information available on Melchizedek's reaction. He didn't oppose it. He didn't accept it. But from Abraham's point of view, absolutely, Yahweh El Elyon. The fascinating thing is that was not the first God Abraham knew. The first God Abraham knew went by El Shaddai, which in Hebrew can be translated as the breasted God, the heavenly mother. So who is it? Which one is it? Does it really matter? Isn't the idea the theme of the deity interacting with the human, you see? So I'm not here to critique and say the Rabyd Atheist is wrong. I'm here to offer my empathy and sympathy, saying this is the journey, isn't it? And it's a Lulu. Look, what else do we have to do? Go to work 8 hours a day, work with a lousy boss. If you're unfortunate, I'm not. I've got a decent boss. But if you have a lousy boss, you work 2/3 of your life miserable, and then you retire. You give all your hard-earned savings to the frickin' doctors because your body and mind is broke down, and then you die. That ain't giving us much, right? So we want more. We hope. There's that word. I know, I get it, but we hope for better, for more. So this is the journey that we're on. It was really interesting. That thought just struck a chord in me, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a quick response to him to let him know, yeah, I'm watching your stuff, and in some ways I am in agreement with you, and in other ways I genuinely want to say keep going, because I went the atheist route for a while, and I get it because I twitted all others. I told them, well, yeah, you didn't go atheist long enough. You were only there for 4 years. And then I hypocritically was an atheist for about 4 years. And then I gave that up and said, no, there's got to be more. So it's a journey, though. And I'm an optimist, so I'm going to be upbeat about it. But it really is fun continuing. And this is so ironic, the struggle to come to knowledge. That's the prize. So I'm just saying, I so enjoy people who make videos where they basically try to come to some kind of a conclusion and figure things out. Yeah, baby, you've got my vote. That's what it's all about. I'm in that same boat with you. And I'm going to continue sharing my ideas. And I hope all of you, whether you're atheist, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, a nobody, whether you live in the north, the south, the east, and west, whether you're a Mormon, it doesn't matter. Whether you're a Community of Christ, one of the offshoots of Mormonism, I don't care. It's fun to see what people are experiencing. It's fun to see what people are learning, because that gives life the verve. Knowledge is worth pursuing is my overall philosophy, and I'm going to keep doing it. So stay tuned. A lot more coming out as I have time to look over various other people's journeys and knowledge and ideas. This is why YouTube is so fun for me. A terrific school without the cost of tuition. Doesn't get better than that.